So David has a beautiful testimony, an amazing testimony that I would like him to share with all of you. His testimony deserves to be shared. The whole world needs to know. He's a young man, 26 years old. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
26 years old, and he's turning 27 next month. But he's been walking this walk, like the Christian walk, trusting God, believing God for a few good years. And it's been like 7 years.
Yeah.
Because you came to the church, you were 19 years old.
Yeah.
And you turned 20 not long after you came to the church. So you've been in the church for 6-7 years.
Yeah.
And during that time, you've been through a lot. You know, I know some of the things that you had to endure. I know some of the things that you had to battle through and fight through and still be committed. You know, more than many young people that I met, you've been committed from 19 years old. And there's so many things out there that you could be doing. There's so much that you could be doing. And you were actually chasing football, a football career.
Yes.
So combining chasing football career with committing to Christ and committing to serving God, I know it's not easy. I know you have to somehow give something away.
Yeah.
I know you have to somehow forego certain things. But, you know, I would like you to just share with people, how did you do it? How was it like for you? You know, football on one side and chasing God and, you know, wanting to please God and to commit to God. And you did it, not just wanting to do it, but you did it. How did you do it?
Well, first of all, you know, before I continue, I just want to say that, you know, God is amazing and God can do all things.
Amen.
God's plan is better than our own plans.
Amen.
You know, God sees your life. You know, he has your life in his hands. You know, the Bible says that you are the apple of his eye. And, you know, this is very true. That scripture is very true. You know, God cares about you and he can do anything. There's nothing that is impossible with God. You know, so don't doubt him. You know, whatever situation that you're in right now, he can and he will do.
Amen.
He's done it for me. So, you know, I can testify to that. That's the first thing. Yeah. To be honest, it was difficult. It was a difficult journey, you know. I know that, you know, before I started uni, which is 2012, I wasn't actually able to travel. Reason being is because, you know, my family had problems with, you know, our residential status in the UK.
Yeah.
You know, that it started from 2004 and it ended in 2009.
Wow.
The status was over. So from that moment, legally speaking, we were illegal, you know, in this country.
And 2004, you were actually a little boy.
I was really small.
What 10, 11 years
I
old?
was probably, around,
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was 11, 12.
Yeah, so just working it out back,
Yeah.
you know, backwards. So 26 now.
Yeah.
Wow. So 2004, you were 11 years old.
Yeah.
And things were all right.
Yeah.
Everything was all right.
Yeah.
Your family, you had your residence.
Yeah.
And you were here up until 2009.
Yes.
Something happened.
Yeah.
What was that? What happened?
Basically, our resident, you know, permit ran out the 5 year that they give you when you first come to, you know, the UK. You know, prior to 2009, of course, we were able to even travel.
Yeah.
You know, went to different countries, you know, saw different places. I even went to, you know, Israel, etc. But as a young boy, you don't realize, you know, the how can you say, the consequences of actually being illegal here. So from 2009, it wasn't really a wake-up call for myself.
Yeah.
But I could see it was starting to affect, you know, my mom. It was affecting my sister, who was older than I, by 6 years. And of course, we weren't allowed to stay here, but we were only able to stay in this country because my dad is an EU citizen. Yeah. So he has a German passport. He's a German national. So that's why we were even able to stay here.
Wow.
So from 2009, I guess that's where the problems started to occur. So, you know, fast forward to 2012, which is when I wanted to go to uni. But prior to me going to uni, I wanted to travel. You mentioned football before. I wanted to travel. I wanted to, you know, go on trial, you know, to different places and try different teams. But I couldn't.
Yeah.
And this is when I first came to the realization that, you know, we're not able to stay here, we're illegal.
Yeah.
You know, and at any moment we could be deported. So the application started at that point.
Yeah.
From around 2010.
Yeah.
But because of I had an injury, you know, I had been nursing an injury from around the age of 14.
Yeah.
You know, with my growth, it was a problem. You know, I had shin splints, and then I had problems with my knees.
Right.
So my dad was like, you know what, it's better to go to university. And, you know, I went to university.
Otherwise, you will have carried on with football?
Football, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have just gone for it 100%.
Yeah.
But at the time, I wasn't able to travel because I didn't have the documents to travel.
Yeah.
So I thought, let me just go to university. And even that in itself, it was God, because, you know, my passport that I had at the time had no stamps in it.
Right.
Yeah, so it had no stamps in it. So it was even God that I was able to apply for university and go to university and study for 3 years as a homegrown student.
Yeah.
You know, around that period of time, I also, about 2 or 3 years previous, I applied for driving provisional. And I remember going to the place and just being saying to my dad, that how is this going to work? You know, there's no stamps in my passport.
Yeah.
What if they check it?
It's a blank.
It's
passport.
blank. It's a blank passport.
And it's
it was valid, but it was blank.
And it's African.
It's African, a Rwandan passport.
Wow.
Yes. So when they were looking at the passport at DVLA and looking back at me, and then when they just accepted it, I was so shocked.
Wow.
So this is another testimony of God, you know, in my life, God's hand in my life. And 2012, I passed my driving license in April, 2012. I went on to uni. I studied for 3 years in uni.
And what did you study again?
Sports science.
Okay.
Yeah, sports science in university. And in my time at university, I was still solely focused on football. Yeah. But now I had to balance it with being committed, you know, to the work of God, because I knew.
Yeah, because you started uni in 2012. Then you came to the church
at the end of 2012.
At the end of
beginning of 2013.
Exactly. So that's like a transition, you know, from first transition was football to now studying, but then you were still chasing football.
Yes.
On the side.
Yes.
You were still chasing football. Yeah. So you haven't let go.
No.
Completely.
No.
So you had your studies and you had football and you came to the church.
Yes.
And what happened? Yeah, come on.
Yeah, so now I came to the church and I was studying as well. You know, I was really good academically as well. So my dad wanted me to carry on studying. And I also wanted to study at the point because I knew that I couldn't pursue football the way I wanted to. And now coming to church, it was much more difficult because all the time that I had on the side, I put it towards football. Yeah. But now I had to still train and still be able to come to church and still be able to go to university.
All right. Now you need to clarify to, you know, people listening to this that you were actually not forced to do that. You weren't under any compulsion to be in church because your parents did not bring you to church. You came to the church by yourself, invited, you know, by obviously a friend, and you made up your mind to commit to this newfound walk of faith, right? Yes. And you travel from Wolverhampton to Selly Oak every single week, like about 15 miles or plus every week, just because you wanted to be there. I could tell, I could just see how, you know, your heart, something happened, you know, to you. I could tell. And your commitment was not like any other, you know, person. It was very unique because at the time you were the only person that actually had to travel from so far, and sometimes in winter. I mean, because the time that you came, it was actually winter.
Yeah.
And it snowed sometimes, and I would see you still travel from Wolverhampton. How did you do it?
Yeah, you just saying it there just reminds me. Even, you know, there was a period of time where I was at home and it snowed, and that day I was so looking forward to, you know, hearing, you know, what you had to say, you know, the word of God that was coming, and I was so excited. Every week I used to go home and tell my mom, listen, this is what I learned.
Your mom told me about
I used to do that every week. I used to think I was a teacher. So when I go back, I'd look at my notes and like, this is what I learned. Do you know that X, Y, Z? Every single week. And that day I was at home and I remember it snowed. Like I've never seen it snow like that in England before. And I was just like, God, do I go? Do I not go? And my mom, as a mother, stay home. rest because you're safe. And I was thinking, I have to walk all the way to the train station, 15 minutes. I have to catch a train. After catching a train, I have to walk to the bus stop. After walking the bus stop, I have to catch the bus all the way to Selly Oak. And then we still have to walk another 10 minutes and then do the reverse and come back home. But something in me just said, you know what, you need to go. And I guess from that period of time, I remember we went, as a group. It was really nice. We used to catch the bus as a group, and it was wonderful. Met loads of people from Birmingham and a lot of young people.
Yeah.
But from that period of time, I just knew that there was no excuse that I could give.
Yeah. So
that
you broke through.
Yeah, that was like a breakthrough, because from that moment I knew that I have no other excuse not to be there. So from that moment I knew that there would be no other compromise. I can still be able to do what I want to do on the side, but I need to always put, God first. And it just became a pattern, something that I didn't even look into. It was just something that I knew. If there's a meeting, I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on Sundays. It was
a Friday, wasn't it?
It was a Friday evening.
Yeah.
So just once a week.
Once a week.
It's Friday.
Yeah, once a week. And as you know, Friday evenings are those
the
time where people
you go out.
Yeah, exactly.
Party, chill.
But I made a decision. I knew it was time for a change, and not to live that life, but to change. And God changed my heart. So
yeah, now that's great. So like moving forward now, let's talk about your immigration situation and how through uni you couldn't work, right? You couldn't work because you didn't have your status. To work, you need to have your status.
Yeah.
How did you manage financially? How was it like?
Well, at the beginning of uni, I had a lot of support from my father. In actual fact, this is a story that's quite funny. In my first term of university, I had applied for student finance and funding and a grant, but I didn't receive it until the end of my first year. But in the first term, what me and my friend did, I took one of his train tickets, went to I believe it was a post office, and we photocopied it, and then I put the term ticket into my train pass, and I used that for the first term because I had no money.
Right.
That was just for the first term, and then after that I received support. But after that, the time where I felt it the most was when I finished uni.
Right.
Because I could not work at all.
Yeah.
There was no opportunities. And I remember, Boniface is a friend of mine, he goes to the church. He used to get me refereeing, jobs, little coaching jobs on the side to support me. Yeah. So that £40 a week to me is like £1,000.
Yeah.
Because that's all I had. And on top of that, the church, the Hyena Foundation, I had a lot of support from yourself, which I'm so grateful for. I can't even express, it actually defies description, the amount of support I received in that period of time, because I don't even know what I would have done. Our family, it was difficult because you don't just have me that can't work. You have my sister that can't work, my other sister that can't work, and she doesn't even live at home, so she has to support herself. And then my mother. So it was just all on my father. Wow. And it was so difficult. I can't even, just looking back and then fast forwarding till today, you can sometimes forget how difficult it was. I remember times where I'd go to university and, with £10, I have to buy the train ticket, I have to eat for the whole day, and then I have to sustain myself, which was difficult. So sometimes I'd go to university and I'd eat because I'm hungry, but then I'd have to eat half a sandwich to keep the sandwich because I know in 2 hours I'll be hungry again. And I didn't have enough. And sometimes I'd have to stay the whole day in the library and then coming home and there's no food. And it's difficult receiving support on food because food runs out. So you need to continuously refill. And it was so difficult because, as you can believe, not having, the papers and, the problems with immigration, it creates a lot of strain on the household. There's a lot of strain, apart from that, you're not able to work, there's no food, there's a lot of tension in the house. So it became very, very, it wasn't the greatest environment you know, for me, myself, and for everyone else, as you can understand.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, you know, to sustain yourself in that, you know, in that environment. But I knew I had something inside of me that just knew that God would come through. I don't even know the hope. I can't even describe it. You know, so even when I received, they always used to send, you know, immigration letters about, you call it deportation.
Yeah.
They used to send a lot of deportation letters to our household, saying that you're going to get deported, you know, and if you don't, you know, report back to I think there was a detention center, that you have to report all the time. You're going to get deported, we're going to come and take you. But there was no sense of panic inside of me. I was always assured. I don't know where it came from. I don't even know how to describe it. Someone can tell you, if you're in trouble, you never know, tomorrow they can deport you. But in my heart, I just knew that something would happen and God would come through.
Yeah, and this is someone who grew here. You know, so as far as your friends were concerned, you were just like them.
Yeah.
They didn't know what you were going through. You speak like them, you have the same mentality, you know, you're of the same culture, but they didn't know what you were going through. And at university, I'm just imagining you going to uni and managing, you know, that way, and you're surrounded by people who were comfortable, and you know, they come to uni, they're supported by their parents, and on top of that they had the grant and also the maintenance loan and all that. But that's amazing. And on top of all this, you were committed to Christ. Wow, it's very inspiring. I just, you know, would like people to understand, you know what you're saying, like the how difficult this, because I remember it, you know, how difficult this is. You know, if you don't know what it's like, of those of you watching this and you're in Africa or you're far away, and you don't necessarily understand, you know, this you know, how things work in Europe, you got to be legal. If you're not legal here, life is difficult. It's very tough if you're not legal here. I know what I'm talking about because I've been there myself. So you carry on with your story now.
Yeah, and I'd like to just add that, you know, if it wasn't for my actual driving license, I probably would have had even more, you know, hell in this country.
Okay.
You know, so to speak, or a lack of a better word, I would say hell, because it allowed me to open bank accounts. It allowed me to have a form of identification.
Yeah.
But without that, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And, you know, my sister actually doesn't have one.
Yeah.
She's unable to have a bank account.
Yeah.
She's unable to have anything in her name. There's nothing that she has in her name.
Yeah.
So you guys can understand the magnitude of you know that. So everything you need to do is basically, it's not recorded. So it's almost as if you're not here.
Yeah.
You see, you're illegal, but you have nothing in your name. It's almost as if you never lived in this country. And for those of you that don't know, we actually moved here in March 2001. So it has been now 19 years.
Yeah.
Which is a long time, as you said yourself. You know, we've been here from childhood. I was 8 years old when I came here. I finished primary school, I finished secondary school, and then of course I went on to college. And from college I went to university.
Wow.
So basically my whole life has been in this country.
So being blessed and having the grace, I would say, to have a driving license without necessarily legal status, with a blank passport, a passport that had nothing in it. You took that passport to the post office or wherever you went.
Yeah, and then DVLA.
And obviously it will be forwarded to the DVLA. And they accepted the blank passport. And from that, you got your driving license. And this driving license later on served you to open a bank account and all that. Otherwise, you would not have been able to. Because bank account, to have a driving license here, full UK driving license, that means that you are actually legal here. you cannot have a full UK driving license if you're not legal here. So the people will assume that you are actually all right. So when you go, so this is actually amazing how God did it. Had he not done that, then things would have been even more difficult.
Definitely. I believe it was almost 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
All right. So almost 7 years it took for God to come through. And all that time you were basically unable to work.
Yeah.
You couldn't work. So you had to teach yourself how to cut hair. When you were actually teaching yourself how to cut hair, did you know that will serve you one day?
No.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, this is amazing. You know, it wasn't even something that I looked into.
Yeah.
It was just something that I wanted to know how to clean myself up.
Yeah.
You know, so basically
without going to the barbers, and pay them.
Yeah, so sometimes
it's a struggle.
Yeah, sometimes it was a struggle. You know, having to go travel. You know, the barbers that I used to go to, you know, Wolverhampton, I had to travel as well. Yeah. So it was quite far, and then sometimes I didn't feel like it's cold.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to, you know, just fix myself up, and so I learned how to do that, you know, over the years. And I believe it was my friend again, Boniface, that, you know, he saw my haircuts and he was like, "You need to do my hair."
Yeah, he's a simple guy, so he'll give you the opportunity. I wouldn't do that, but yeah,
you did it.
Yeah, I did it. He gave you his head for you what? You know, his head was like, you know, the how did they say that? The trial, you know,
like a mannequin basically.
Yeah, so you use his head to basically learn to shape up and all these things, and you know, train people. Yeah. Man, that Boniface, you're a good man, man. You're a very good man.
A great man.
You know, for you to give your head for trial, you know, nobody does that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that. Your head as a man is very, very important. But yeah, so he's done that for you.
Yeah.
So he volunteered.
He volunteered, man. He was the first person, and after that, I, you know, carried on cutting his.
And
hair.
I remember when you first got him, and he came to church. And the fade was like, you know, his head was a bit, you know. So I had to pay close attention to know the shape of his head, you know, because you gave him a funny shape. But Boniface is a good friend, isn't it? So he didn't stop.
He didn't.
You know, because some people, that would have been it. You're not touching their head again. But he gave you his head again.
Yeah. To be honest, I actually refused. He insisted. So today, I spoke to him the other week and I said, "Today I owe it all to you," because I refused.
Because you were embarrassed.
I did not want to cut anyone's hair. It was Boniface. It took him, asked him about a couple of months.
Yeah.
Always asking me, "Can you do my hair?" No. Because I don't want to ruin his head. I didn't want to.
And it wasn't free. He paid you.
Yeah.
And he was insisting that you mess his head up again. He was insisting that you mess his hair up again. And he will be paying you on top of it.
Exactly.
What a friend!
What a friend! And he was so confident that I'll get better. He was just like, you will get better over time. And I was just like, okay, you know.
If you insist,
I shall oblige.
Yeah. So did you hurt him a few times?
Oh, there was.
I remember there was a story that you know, the blade.
There are too many stories. We can't even go into the stories. There are too many stories.
The blade went, you know, the caught him a few times.
Yeah, I have a lot of stories like that, to be honest. He wouldn't be the first.
God is gracious, eh?
Amen. Amen.
You were just hustling. I mean, you were just trying to do something. Yeah. I mean, you had a bit of time. Obviously, you couldn't work, and beside church and football and then your studies. I mean, if you could do something, you know, and learn something, and that was barbering, but you didn't know that it was actually something that will become what it's become now.
Exactly.
You didn't know.
I didn't know.
Yeah, and Boniface was the angel that God used to help you to build your confidence in that area. That's amazing. You know, and this is someone you met in church. That's amazing. And he allowed you to do that. Wow. So move forward now. A few times you did his hair, and then what happened?
From that moment, I kind of just had a few more people that I started to cut.
Yeah.
And my cousin playing football. One time he asked me, can you do my hair? And I was like, okay, I can do your hair. Now I had the confidence that I can do somebody else's hair.
After a few trials.
Yeah.
On someone else's hair.
Yes. A few good trials. And this was the end of 2016, which I was now confident to cut someone's hair. So I did his hair, and the next day went to training. I remember this was the beginning of 2017, and all his teammates saw his hair, and they were like, who cuts your hair? Who's your barber? And he's like, I have a personal barber, it's his family, that's my barber. And they were like, yeah, we need to get a haircut from him.
Wow.
We need to. And he told me. They insisted. So every Friday, I used to go down to, the accommodation that, the footballers live at in Birmingham, which was in Kings Norton.
Yeah.
And every single Friday, I began cutting, hair. It was just it just became a routine. Every Friday I was there, and they were coming to cut
From
the hair.
Boniface, being the guinea pig.
Yes.
To footballers.
And these were young footballers who were searching for, the professional contract. So they were there, and they were just basically coming every single week and insisting that I cut their hair.
Yeah.
And I remember there were different challenges that, I had to face, cutting their hair. It was definitely a training ground for me.
Yeah.
It was a training ground. And they insisted that I made an Instagram. It wasn't me that actually wanted to.
Yeah.
So they now insisted that we want to get exposure. We want you to be exposed to the world for what you do. Because I don't know where I can post this. Like, who can I show? You have nothing.
Yeah.
So it took me, as you remember, about a month.
I
was asking for a name. And the name, Cabana Coupe came up. I made the name myself. Cabana being my name, and then Coupe in French meaning, cut or coupe to cut. Yeah. And then I made the Instagram.
Yeah.
And after 2 weeks, I literally got a call from one of my friends from Leicester, and he knew a professional footballer for the first team of Birmingham City.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm on my way home at the train station. I'm literally at the train station about to board the train home.
Yeah.
And then I get a call saying that, his name is Shay Adams. He plays in the Premier League right now. He wants a haircut. He was at Birmingham at the time, and he doesn't live too far from, church. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but he doesn't live too far.
Yeah.
And then I got a phone call saying that he wants a haircut. And then at the time I was like, yes, that's fine. And then I looked on Google as to who I was cutting, and I started to panic.
Yeah.
Because I didn't understand how I even got to this place.
Yeah.
I'm now cutting a professional footballer.
From cutting your hair because you don't have the means to go to the barbers, and the distance from your house to the barbers is just too far. You didn't have your status, so financially you were struggling. You couldn't get a job, and then you had to just hustle, cut your own hair. To now meeting somebody in church who was a good friend enough to ask you to cut his hair, and you had to try on his hair. Then, you messed it up, but then he still insisted that you cut him because he wanted you to get better at it. And he saw an opportunity for you. And if you were to cut his hair a few times and get used to it, because you used to do a good job with your own hair, but you didn't really have much experience with other people's hair, and you didn't have the confidence to do so. But he offered you the opportunity, gave you the opportunity to grow your confidence by cutting his hair. Then that grew to just randomly cutting your cousin, who was a footballer. Then the footballer recommended you to other footballers, or they actually wanted you to cut their hair because they saw how well you did your cousin's hair. This is amazing. Then fast track now to this Premier League footballer who wanted you to cut his hair.
Yeah.
This is amazing. And then what happened?
Yeah, so he at the time he was playing in Championship, and I started cutting his hair. And after that, because of that exposure, as you can imagine, it bridges, it gives you more connections now.
Yeah.
You've cut a first team footballer.
Yeah.
You can cut other first team footballers. So from that moment, I just became a regular cutting, footballers. And after a while, as you know, my cousin became a professional.
Yeah.
And then when they post it, others see it.
Yeah.
And from there, there was so much opportunity to cut other footballers. And there was a time where last year where I even got a opportunity to cut Wigan Athletic players, and they called me to the hotel to cut their hair.
Yeah.
And this is all God, and now the connections, the people, the friends that is brought me in that world. I don't even know what to say. Actually, it's amazing. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of footballers, and I still cut a lot of them, today because of that opportunity. Then, and it's opening so much more doors for me right now.
So God has actually helped you and inspired you, to through that situation, to obviously cut your own hair, and you developed a skill from that. And because you couldn't get a job, that actually became indirectly your job, a means for you to survive, because these people paid you, and they paid you well. Footballers, not just normal, guys that you cut and give you £5, or you ask them to give you £10. Some of them will struggle to give you the £10. Like, yo, bro, I'll give you £5. You know what I mean? Because you're not a professional barber and stuff like that. But these guys were actually paying. Do you mind if I ask you how much you paid?
It varies. So as you know, being a mobile barber, you go to the house, you cut their hair. So it depends on the distance that you live, wherever they live,
and how they feel as well.
Yeah, sometimes how they feel. I believe probably the most I've received is £50.
Okay.
For just a haircut.
Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah.
But those moments, I've cut more than one.
Yeah.
So you end up leaving with more, than that. But yeah, they really, as footballers, they don't mind.
Yeah.
Whatever they feel like, they'll. Yeah. Sometimes they say, yeah, have a taxi, Uber, all the way home. They take care of you. So God bless them.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so whilst all that's happening, you're still struggling with the fact that you didn't have your status. Your family was still struggling. You didn't have your status. You were still waiting on God and trusting God and praying. You were still in church praying. And how difficult was it to pray? How difficult was it to serve God knowing that you had this handicap?
It was...
Or how easy? If it was easy.
No, it was definitely difficult. It was definitely difficult because in that time, as you can imagine, you see a lot of people coming to church and you see a lot of testimonies, a lot of things that happen for those people.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to question yourself and you start to question God.
Yeah.
In a way that not so much so that you envy them, but, why not me?
Yeah.
I've given everything.
Yeah.
And it really shouldn't be that way, but you're like, I've given everything that I have. I still give everything, but I'm still struggling, in this area with immigration.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do? Why is it such a struggle?
Yeah.
Why can I not bridge the gap?
Mm-hmm.
And the enemy works in such a way that it will, your mind, you're always, one moment you have a lot of hope, the next moment you have a lot of doubt.
Yeah.
You see? And it became so difficult, but I still had to push.
Yeah.
I couldn't give up. I still had to remain committed. I still had to, be diligent. I still had to serve others. I still had to be an encouragement to others.
Yeah.
I still had to keep a smile on my face. I couldn't come around, as you know me, I'm not really the person that will be sad and sitting in the corner.
Yeah.
Even when I'm going through a lot, I still want to give joy and laughter and enjoyment, to other people. And I know sometimes other people need it even more than myself. But, when you retreat and you really think, you feel down a lot of the times, but I knew that, God would definitely come through.
Yeah. And through this process, you helped a lot of people as well. You brought a lot of people to Christ. You helped to establish a lot of people in Christ, going through what you were going through at the time. And I'm just privileged. I'm just so honored that I was a witness. I've been a witness, from the beginning to when God came through and did what he did for you. But how did it happen? I just want you to share with people how it finally happened.
Okay, so in November 2018, my sister Anais, my older sister, she had a court case. All the legal documents, so to speak, about our status in this country.
Yeah.
So she took that to the court, and she had her own lawyer with her.
Yeah.
And that day, it didn't go well. Right. Basically, the judge rejected the application, and she knew a lot about the law.
Yeah.
But she displayed her knowledge, and the Home Office correspondent actually saw that, and there were certain things they couldn't actually answer to that they didn't know about.
Yeah.
So what they did is that they almost made a continuation of that court case.
Yeah.
So they invited her to come again the next month, but something happened which was December 2018, that they forgot to make that appointment. So they moved it to January. This was January the 8th of 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, January the 8th.
And this time you finished university.
Yeah.
You did your degree, you graduated, and then you did your postgrad.
From 2016 to 2017, I did a master's.
You did your master's 2016
to
2017.
Yeah.
Right.
So now we're 2019, and January the 8th is the day that they gave her. Yeah. So she had to go to the highest court, the highest tribunal, the highest judge. She stood in front of him. Wow. And she brought a couple of her friends just to pray for her.
Yeah.
So they were there, they were in the room.
Wow.
And then there was one that I think arrived late and was praying outside.
Yeah.
So she brought them just to pray.
Yeah.
And that day, for some reason, I believe she wasn't able to have her own lawyer with her.
Right.
You see, her lawyer wasn't able to be there for some reason.
Right.
And even at that point, her lawyer wasn't, in fact, defending people in the court.
Right.
So she had to go and defend herself.
Right.
In front of the judge and in front of the Home Office correspondent. So as she's there and the judge is, reading out certain things, it's looking like she's losing. So now her friends are praying for her. And she hears a voice inside her that tells her, be still. Just be still and be silent. Don't talk. The judge is talking, the Home Office correspondent is, literally nailing her, and it's looking like she's losing the battle. It looks like the appeal, because this was an appeal now.
Yeah.
That she was going to lose the appeal.
Yeah.
And at that moment now, the judge is just reading certain laws, and there's a little bit of silence now in the court.
Yeah.
And at that moment of silence, she looks over to the Home Office correspondent, herself, you can imagine the emotion, almost wanting to cry. This is 10 years of a big battle, a gigantic battle that, we went through as a family. So at this moment, the Home Office correspondent looks at her and smiles for some reason.
Yeah.
And from that moment, he began to defend her. He began to say the things that she would say to defend herself.
Yeah.
He began to say, you know what, your immigration status doesn't make sense because you've been in this country for so long, you've studied here. He began to defend her. And from that moment, after he finished, the judge also began to talk in favor of us, in favor of the family.
Wow. In
favor, just saying, X, A, Y, Z, this is the reason, you're right.
The same judge, the same one that was the same one who was opposing.
This is a different judge.
Okay.
This is a different judge. I apologize, I forgot to mention. It's a different judge.
Okay.
The previous judge had rejected the application.
Yeah.
Now this was an appeal. This was the highest judge, in the highest court. It was a different judge altogether.
Yeah.
But he came to the conclusion that we have a right to be permanent in this country. Permanent residents in this country.
Yeah.
And from that moment, she just asked, what do I do? He said, you don't need to do anything. We'll just send you, the permanent resident card, the biometric card. We'll send it to you, and, everything is fine. You don't need to do anything at all. And that from that moment, she walked out the courtroom and she cried. Yeah. She wept. She wept. And not long after that, she told, the family the news.
Yeah.
And you know, that was just amazing. No words.
Yeah.
No words.
Yeah. And then you had to obviously make an application yourself.
Yeah.
And then through that you got your permanent residence.
Yes.
And your university, obviously you had some debts, right? How much debt did you have from uni?
It was 10,000.
10,000. 10,000.
Yeah.
Well, how about the previous? The
It's
3
more.
years.
It's more. I believe it was definitely over 30,000.
Because I remember they threatened to kick you off.
Yeah, definitely. They did.
Your university.
Yeah, they did. So that wasn't the undergrad. That was the postgrad.
That's the program.
Yeah, because when I entered the postgrad course, I actually had no legal status.
Yeah.
So what they actually did is they let me. It was God again. It was just the grace of God. They let me on the course.
Yeah.
Because of course I had studied there before.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason.
Otherwise, you had no paperwork, nothing.
There was nothing. I couldn't go to any other university. I couldn't study anywhere else. That was the last opportunity I had, which was Coventry Uni. Hence why I went and studied there. Anyway.
And while you were studying there, I'm sure some things happened where they wanted to let you go. And how did I come about?
Yeah, at the beginning, I didn't even go for the first month. So I actually started a month late. Very difficult. You know, very, very difficult. So even the group work, I had to do it all by myself. I had to catch up within a month.
Yeah.
You know, in April, and do all the work by myself. So while everyone was off, I was in.
Yeah.
You know, doing the work, and at that moment they didn't want me to be on the course anymore. You know, actually they said that, you know, I should not be on the course because I hadn't provided any evidence of my residential status, which I had said by that point I would have.
Yeah.
But because I didn't have it, I couldn't do it. But they still let me continue, and I finished, you know, the year.
Yeah.
But they didn't allow me to graduate.
Okay.
You see, they didn't allow me to graduate.
Yeah.
They didn't allow me to graduate with my classmates.
Yeah.
And they didn't give me any certificate.
Right.
So they couldn't because of the fees that I owed the uni.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when your residence came through, it was backdated. You talk about that.
Amazing. You know, the dating of my resident permit is actually, how can I say, that was the whole twist in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because they backdated it to April 2015.
Right.
Which is when we had actually had our application granted at the point. So it actually came through the first time.
Yeah.
Which is 2015.
Yeah.
So I believe in June, you know, as a family, we went to the post office, we did our biometric, we did everything. But they sent back a letter and saying that it was rejected, which is something that never happens.
Yeah.
Once you do the biometric, the fingerprint, everything, the picture, that's it.
Yeah.
And they actually backdated it all the way till then, which meant now that I'm a homegrown student. On top of that, we're British. We don't have to wait another 5 years.
Yeah.
So as soon as you pay for your citizenship, you pay for the passport, you're British. And that was God. That was only God. Like, I can't even say the way it happened. I don't know. I don't have any words, man. It's thinking about it always makes me emotional because I remember everything that we went through.
Yeah.
And then for God to not only grant it, but then for them to backdate it all the way, you know, till April 2015, which is when
you initially made
exactly, and they're saying that basically that's when we had it. So it actually didn't happen now. If you look at it properly, it happened in 2015.
But you see, the amazing thing about this story is that sometimes God has done it, but then the enemy will intercept what God has done, not necessarily the initial. I want to put this in a way that it makes sense. The enemy can make you actually believe that what God had or what you asked was not granted. You know, but it was granted. It's the same as Daniel. When Daniel prayed, and the Bible says that the first day that he said the prayers, God granted the prayers, the answer to his prayers. But then the enemy intercepted, held the angel that was bringing the answer to Daniel's prayer. So for the manifestation, it's not necessarily the prayers that was not answered. The answer was given, but the manifestation of the prayers, the physical manifestation, did not happen when it should have happened, because the enemy intercepted, came in between the manifestation and its fulfillment.
And that is very key. You brought something back, to my memory that actually happened.
Yeah.
At that period of time, 2015, I'm sure you remember, we had a fast. I think it was a 40-day fast.
We did a 40-day fast.
40-day fast, and I kid you not, every single day at 3 a.m. I was crying on my knees, crying out to God.
That's 2015.
15.
When you made the application. Yes. I remember that.
Yes, and I believe it's between May and June. But it was a 40-day fast, I remember.
Yeah. And you mentioned to me that you're making the application for the citizenship, your residence here, your permanent residence here.
Yeah.
You were making an application for that, see if we can pray. And I remember that,
And I prayed every day. Like, it was the last thing that I could do. And I gave it everything. I prayed. And I remember at the end of it, the way God displayed it was amazing. Actually, we applied as a family.
Yeah.
But when they accepted, it was only my letter that came through. And I knew, because I prayed for God to show me. Yeah. I knew it was because that fast and, the prayer was God's display that I answered your prayers. Yeah. So mine came through, just mine.
Yeah, at
the time.
In 2015.
So mine came through saying that you've been accepted, you need to go, to the post office, have the biometric done, etc. And everyone else's came a week later. Right. So I remember, I'm so thankful, to yourself as well, because I remember, the fast, I didn't really understand. 40 days, it's a long time. But at the end of it, God actually answered it. He answered the prayer. Yeah. And just what you said right there, where the enemy can come and intercept, is,
But what they granted, they said they granted it. So you went to do your biometric and all this, fingerprint and all that. You've done that, and then you got a letter after,
about 2 or 3 weeks after,
that your application was
rejected. Yeah.
So guys, this is what the enemy does. And he will make you believe that God did not do what he said he can do and will do for you. That he has done for you. The enemy will make you believe that God hasn't done it. You got to hold on to the report of the Lord. You got to trust the word of God and not the word of the enemy, and know that God has done it. It's just a matter of time. He will bring it to full fruition. You will see the manifestation of it. Even if the enemy is intercepting and fighting against the manifestation, the physical manifestation of what God spiritually has already released and ordained, you must stay on your knees and you must keep praying and keep trusting God. And finally, it will happen that God will come through. Amen. Just like in the case of Daniel, it was 21 days. The first day that he fasted and prayed, God answered him. But then the enemy intercepted, came in between the prayers that he prayed, the answer to his prayer, and the manifestation, the physical manifestation of the answer. So the fact that physically the answer is not manifested does not mean that you haven't been answered. You have been answered. God has answered you. God has spoken to you. God has told you. God has answered your prayers. It's just a matter of time. It will be manifested. But sometimes it will take a day or two or a month or year or sometimes. But other times, God answers our prayers immediately. And it's for us to hear God and hold on to his report. They had to hold on to God's report for a few years. He had to do that for a few good years. And during that time, the enemy made them feel as though God did not do it. And some people during this time will backslide. Some people during this time will walk away from God. Some people during this time will deny their faith, renounce their faith. Then imagine if you renounce your faith and then later on you realize that you were actually granted what you applied for at the time. Imagine if you walked away from God, you know, and started doing all kinds of things. Then you realize that God actually answered your prayers. How would you feel about that? And it's something that I just want to, you know, leave it here and encourage all of us to keep trusting God. If you're a young man out there, just know that there is nothing that God cannot do for you.